This is not a brand new development. This isn't 600 acres that's coming in with all of this density that we're being asked to consider. DAI has brought together a bunch of property owners to the table to get a better development plan in the area. That agreement can only be changed if both parties agree. The city can't just go and say, we don't like these aspects, we want to change it. Both parties have to agree.
Welcome to Herrimanology,
the official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. It is Thursday, February 15th, and we got to spend Valentine's Day at a city council meeting last night. It was
fantastic.
It was great. We actually had a couple of young men come in and serenade the council with a singing telegram, and you got some roses out of it too.
So after all these years on the council, I spent my 20th anniversary at a council meeting, many birthdays, you name it. So just add this one to the list.
Oh man, I'm John LaFollette, communications manager for Herriman City, alongside Councilmember Jared Henderson, who represents District 1. Thanks for coming.
You bet.
And what area is District 1, for those who may not be familiar?
It's basically the north side of town. So on the northern part, so Herriman High School, from Main Street north and from east to west. Yep, I just tell people it's the north end of town.
Yep. So let's talk about some of the voting items really quickly. There was one item moved off the agenda, but two quick ones. There was an update to the city's annexation declaration plan, including the map. What does that mean?
Well, there's lots of different master plans that the county and or state requires us to have in place and requires us to update them every so often, or when something happens. This annexation declaration map is one of those. We just have to say, of the land that is next to our borders, what would we ever consider bringing into the city if they wanted to talk to us?
Yeah. And to be clear, annexation petitions have to be started by the property owner. We can't, as a city,
we can't just force them.
Yeah, we want you in the boundaries.
Yeah.
And you updated the master fee schedule, too. There are a couple items there, the Black Ridge Reservoir Pavilion and the rodeo tickets.
The pavilion really just updated the fee to cover our costs, and it's only available to rent on weekends and holidays, not during the week anymore. And then that was pretty much on that one.
Pretty simple.
And then the rodeo fees, every year we're looking at all these kinds of fees, really to make sure we're trying to cover our costs and stay current. And the rodeo is one of those efforts as well. We added a third day. And change the fee structure a little bit to try to accommodate those things.
The junior ROTC program from Herriman High School came and presented an idea for their annual community service project. What was that about?
It was great. They made a good presentation, and in the end, we're asking for our help to facilitate their service project. They want to help educate people and facilitate proper care of U.S. flags. So they want to educate people what that proper care is, and then how to tell when it's time to retire a flag and how to do that properly. They wanted our support and somehow facilitating them to be able to have an event where they could have a few stations to do those things, educate people and show them how to do that. We'll look forward to that.
Yep, you'll hear more about that in coming weeks and months, kind of depending where it lands in the calendar. Really quickly, a discussion about the city's animal code. This is something that's popped up a few times over the years. The city's been working on cleaning up some language, but what was the discussion last night in the work meeting, and what did the council discuss?
We constantly are looking at our ordinances and provisions just to update them. And a lot of these things, when the city, and this is my experience, right? So a lot of these codes and ordinances that we had in place originally were basically kind of a copy and paste from the county or from surrounding areas. So we've kind of tasked staff with reviewing some of those things, bringing them up to speed. And so this began as that effort. And they've done a great job of that. A few council members asked for a deeper discussion into what some of the particular aspects of the ordinances were. In particular, The three that we discussed at length last night and several times before was the number of animals you could have, specifically cats and dogs, ones that we license, whether you could use an e-collar rather than a physical leash, and more or less breeding.
Yeah.
Right. So in the end, we didn't change anything in the ordinance concerning those three things, but we had a broad discussion regarding them.
Yeah.
And when I felt it was a good discussion, and a few of us have differing opinions, but in the end, we didn't see, the majority council didn't see any benefit in changing those specific parts of the ordinance.
Yeah. And a couple of other items that are kind of related, that we can talk broadly, just kind of help people understand what the city can control, what the city doesn't control. The Panorama development. And there's been a lot of discussion online this week, partly because of a post that we put out, trying to help residents understand.
Which is good. It started a discussion.
That it did. Try to help people understand an application that the city has received from a private developer who's working with multiple property owners up on the southern hillside of the city. Right. So what is the application that we received for Panorama? What has been going on? Kind of what are the next steps, and what does the city control? There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot of angles here.
There's a lot to unpack on this one, and we could probably spend an hour just you and I.
Yeah.
Me just going through kind of a list of all of these things. I think as I've explained to my friends and neighbors or constituents, anybody who's asked about this, especially the last few days since the city's post, I think that there's kind of a few major items to wrap your heads around. One is this is not a brand new development. This isn't 600 acres that's coming in with all of this density that we're being asked to consider. This area already exists. There's three major developers involved and three major property owners, several smaller ones that have joined with them. So Wasatch, South Hills, and Rosecrest are two existing developers, two existing property owners that have existing development agreements dating back to 2007, 2009 is when those are put in place. But with any agreement, that agreement can only be changed if both parties agree. Yeah. The city can't just go and say, we don't like these aspects. The people who agreed to those in 2009 made a mistake. We want to change it. Both parties have to agree. Yeah. So to me, that's the first thing is please understand this is not a brand new 600 acres with density coming in. These are two major existing ones. And now there's a third developer coming in, DAI, who has kind of brought together a bunch of property owners to the table to try to get basically those three groups together to get a better development plan in the area. So if they've gotten Wasatch and Rosecrest to come together with them and they want to look at those existing master development agreements, MDAs, that gives us the opportunities as a city to say, okay, we have they're willing to talk about some changes to this. They want some changes. Well, then we want some changes, right? And so as from a council point of view, for me in particular, that's where my focus is where if they're coming to the table and wanting some changes, what changes can we get that make sense for us? By no means have any decisions been made.
Right.
We have, as far as the council goes, we've looked at this, and I think the majority of us agree that the concept of what they're trying to do to bring everything together and make some more sense of it, get the roads put in. So heaven forbid we actually have Juniper Crest, finished before they start building more houses. Like those things are on the table or part of what this discussion. And I think really is what's driving it. They see that infrastructure needs to be completed. There's been a lot kind of hodgepodge and roads aren't connecting, utilities aren't connecting. Who's going to pay for what? That really is on the developer side. It's not the city. So they're trying to come together and get themselves to agree on how to go about those things. And now they're bringing it to the city. Can you approve these things? And we're saying, well, I would love that concept, but there's a lot of other things that we want to clean up in those agreements as well.
Yeah. And so this idea has been on the city council's plate for about a year or so. This is the first time that a lot of residents have heard of it, but like you said, it's not new, like brand new, clean slate. So you'll see Panorama coming up on planning commission agendas and city council agendas for some time until it crosses a finish line one way or the other.
Yeah, so kind of that where they're at in the process, right? So we've had some of those informal discussions. Yeah, we're supportive of the concept, but now you have to put the concept on paper and go through the process, and there's quite a bit to the process. The stage they're at in the process is to take that concept to the planning commission, so to the planning department, make an application, go to the planning commission, and they look through that conceptual plan really and start putting some detail to it, right, to make sure that they're adhering to our ordinances and requirements for open space. And we talked about the driveway length last night and all of those sorts of things. The planning commission will then, part of their process, there has to be a public hearing, which is the next step, right, where the public can come in and make comments and all those things. Several years ago, we instituted a part of that process where we require the developer to hold an open house. It's just the developer, that for them to open themselves up to talk to the public directly.
Yep.
So that's what's happening tonight, I believe, 6 to 7, and that's here.
Yeah, they'll be here, and it'll be too late for people listening to this, but it will be even though it's happening at the city hall, it's not hosted by the city. It's hosted by the developer presenting their project.
So that's the point I want to make, is whenever you see this, and then whenever you see an open house like that, we require that of them, but that's their opportunity to talk to the public directly. The city's not running that. Any claims that they make are their claims alone. If they're telling you that the city is signed off, the city's not signed off on anything yet. We're just supportive of the concept and take it through the process and start decisions. So we made very clear again last night that we're talking, there's a lot of moving parts, but the main thing is these master development agreements that we want to make sure we go through with a fine-tooth comb and clean them up and make them more mutually beneficial.
Some of the concerns that people very understandably have with developments like this, or Olympia or South Hills or whatever development in any city, is transportation infrastructure. And we obviously see the strain that's put on. We see the traffic, and a lot of that is not in the city's control. Some of it is on kind of internal roads, but the Utah Department of Transportation has been working on Mountain View Corridor, Bangor Highway, and in some cases they bumped up in priority.
Largely due to our efforts.
Yeah.
I'll say that's the thing I will say that several of us council members especially will take credit for, is the reason you're seeing 134th, 27th done now. It were our direct efforts to get them bumped up in priority. So yeah, there's so many of those things. Well, most roads, honestly, especially construction of new roads, has nothing. The city has no control over any of those things, especially when it's UDOT.
Right.
But we've worked hard to get into those rooms and get at the table and make our case along with the other cities around here, and we're making some progress that way. It's going to be painful. I know nobody is looking forward to the construction, but I can't wait to see it finished.
It's going to be nice. So this year, you'll see, obviously, Bangor and 134 will be changed into a freeway interchange there.
As is 20. So they're doing 27th, 134th, 98th, and 47th south.
And then you'll also see some construction starting from the end of Mountain View Corridor at Porter Rockwell Boulevard, extending through Camp Williams over into Utah County. And then in a few years, they're already starting some preliminary work right now. The green space in between the current road on Mountain View Corridor becoming a freeway.
I think that's something with Mountain View Corridor that most people don't understand. What you currently see with Mountain View Corridor is the frontage road. What you're driving on right now is not the freeway, it's a frontage road. So when people complain about the traffic lights that are being put in, it's a frontage road. Yeah. The space in the middle is the freeway that's coming, and that's been bumped up in priority. Yep. At least right now, we should start to see some construction on that in the next,
couple of years,
2-3 years. So that'll be huge.
UDOT is aware of that. The city is certainly aware of infrastructure strains. The fact is the city can't prevent growth or stop growth. building moratoriums are not legal in the state of Utah. That city council, I'll say from my perspective, has put in a lot of effort over the years to work with community partners, developers, to try to make it better for the city. And I think in some cases the developers really have listened.
Yeah, I think we're starting to make some progress, especially this last, say, 2 years especially. We have a kind of a cohesive council that is, I'd say the majority of the time is on board with doing what we can to, just like the Panorama thing, claw back some of these old agreements and try to get things better. The developers are starting to see the mess that's been made and are coming to the table a little bit more, because now things are getting to the point where they've got to finish putting in that infrastructure before anything else can be done.
Yeah. One more thing I want to touch on before we end and sign off for the day is the ice ribbon will be ending its season next Saturday. So as I walk out after work every day, it's kind of empty out there. So if you want to skate around without bumping elbows with other visitors, now's a great time. It's still cold enough. There's still good ice out there. So get out and skate on the ice ribbon. Last day is Saturday, February 24th. So thanks to Councilmember Henderson for joining today. Thanks for watching on whatever platform you're watching on. As always, leave a comment, whether it's on social media or SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple, whatever you're listening to this on. Leave a comment or a question, and we'll address it in the next episode. And thanks for watching.